WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and all around the world on WADR.org. This is Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegal beefs up security in the capital Dakar and other regions ahead of Sonko's trial later today. Suspected terrorists killed 3 soldiers and injured a dozen more in an attack in Nigeria's northeast. A mine accident in Ghana killed 7 and entombed 17 others after heavy rains Monday evening. A human rights expert advocates strong trade and good governance as key drivers for African trade development.
As in issues that, we got from human rights groups and NHRIs, and this is transparency and accountability of agreements, access to health, access to education, food security, housing, free movement of persons, that's migration.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is James Adjapong with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. Let's begin in Senegal, where the capital city, Dakar, has resumed tight security over the expected appearance of the opposition leader Ousmane Sonko in the rape case filed against him by a beauty salon employee, Adjapong. Ms. Sall also accused the opposition politician of repeated death threats. However, reports suggest that Sonko, who should have represented himself to court on Monday, May 15th, ahead of today's hearing, is still in Ziguinchor, a town where he is the mayor. As of Tuesday morning, the Senegalese Ministry of Interior, in a statement, confirmed 2 deaths from Monday's clashes between protesters and security operatives. Meanwhile, images and villages shared on social media platforms also indicate huge material loss, with businesses and shopping malls vandalized. Currently, security operatives are stationed in strategic points in the city center. Martisi has more in this report.
The risk of violent outbursts in Dakar, the Senegalese capital, and other regions of the country today, May 16th, is very high. Opposition leader Ousmane Sonko is due to appear before the criminal chamber of the Dakar court in the case filed against him by Adjapong for multiple counts of rape and repeated death threats. On Monday, in the south of the country, mainly Ziguinchor and select suburbs of Dakar, experienced unprecedented violence and clashes between law enforcement and supporters of the opposition leader. For Senegalese political analyst Mamadou Albersi, the desire to bring Sonko to trial by force carries the seeds of violence.
Everything will depend on whether Ousmane Sonko will stay in Ziguinchor. If he stays, will he be forced to come to the trial? If so, he will be brought in by force, and it is certain that there will be violence on a much more significant level. If Ousmane Sonko is arrested, it is certain that PASTEF will react again, and this may have a nationwide impact.
For several days, the leader of the party, PASTEF, has been in Ziguinchor, the city of which he is mayor. Again, Mamadou Albersi says the move is potentially part of Sonko's strategy to escape this legal battle.
He feels that the trial of Adjapong will perhaps take the same turn, that is to say, that there will be tension and perhaps there will be physical assault. It is all that I believe explains the behavior of Sonko. He is back to the wall, and I believe that the government has to realize that the only answer to Ousmane Sonko's case is to pass on.
All things considered, Ousmane Sonko is still in Ziguinchor, as he is expected this morning around 10 a.m. at the court in Dakar. The candidate of the 2024 presidential race, according to analysts, may have his eligibility revoked should he be convicted, considering he has already received a 6-month suspended prison sentence.
Martisi filed that report. The Joint Military Task Force, known as Multinational Joint Task Force, MNJTF, lost 3 of its troops over the weekend during a terrorist attack. Sources from within the platform confirmed that those killed were from the Niger Republic and Nigeria. Abdullahi Hassan has more in this report.
The 3 soldiers and troops of the MNJTF were killed in the northeastern region of Nigeria after a heavy attack by insurgents on Sunday. 2 Nigerian soldiers of the Joint Task Force were killed when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device (IED) while they were pursuing insurgents. The Nigerian soldier, like his Nigerian counterpart, was killed when the vehicle he was traveling in detonated another explosive device. According to sources, 10 troops, including the commanding officer, were injured, and another 2 civilians working with them also sustained injuries. The troops were on a routine patrol of the border area, an epicenter of the Boko Haram crisis that began a decade ago. The conflict has killed thousands of people and displaced millions more. The multinational Joint Task Force (MNJTF), made up of forces from Benin, Cameroon, Chad, Niger and Nigeria, seeks to end the insurgency and restore peace in the affected areas.
Abdullah Hassan filed that report.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
If you are just tuning in, this is Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and all around the world on WADR.org. Now, more on electoral matters. The Gambia's major opposition, United Democratic Party, UDP, has accused President Barrow of campaigning for his National People's Party, NPP, candidate ahead of the mayoral election this weekend. The opposition party claims that members of the ruling party have been provoking them since the beginning of the campaign, but NPP denied these claims. Our Banjul correspondent Sankole Janko has more.
The UDP claims Gambian President Adama Barrow is campaigning for his mayoral candidates ahead of the election on Saturday. This comes after the president held a series of rallies with his mayoral and chairman candidates after launching a few road projects. According to the opposition, President Barrow's actions are unlawful as per the campaign itinerary. Tambon Sedi is the administrative secretary of UDP's Communication and Media.
On Friday, President went to Dibakunda and had his Friday prayer there, which we have no issue with. But he ended up doing house-to-house campaign with Bakari Baji. And then after that, in the evening, he had a political rally there with Bakari Baji, promoting Bakari Baji, which was very unlawful because according to the schedule, Bakari Baji was not supposed to be in that constituency at all.
He further claims members of the NPP have been provoking with a view to disrupt the election.
The NPP, they've been provoking the UDP since the campaign started. First, they have a group of boys who are going around at night vandalizing UDP posters and banners. And on the 11th, which was on Thursday, we wrote to the IEC to report the matter. You see, the NPP's strategy is to incite violence so that when there is a big violent clash between UDP and NPP, the president will declare a state of emergency and maybe they will postpone the election.
WADR reached out to the Independent Electoral Commission, IEC, for comments, but all efforts went unsuccessful. Meanwhile, the ruling National People's Party, NPP, has refuted UDP's claims. The spokesperson for the NPP, Lamin Quinjame, said Barrow's activities are not related to the campaign.
I would repeat and emphasize that the president's engagement are purely national development.
But their argument is the timing of these national developments. That is their argument, that he could have done it earlier or later on, wait after the campaign is done.
Mr. Janko, UDP must understand that President Barrow is the president of the Gambia. His engagements in national development matters is not defined by any time law specific to any timing or any location.
The Gambia will hold mayoral and chairman elections on Saturday, 20 May 2023. However, Cyprus, a survey firm in a poll, claims a favorable outcome for the opposition UDP party in Saturday's mayoral election. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankole Janko reporting from Banjul.
In Guinea, judicial workers, including judges, Monday passed off without any single hearing across the country to denounce what they describe as interference in legal proceedings by the executive. The decision, decided on May 11th, came after the provisional release of leaders of the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution, FNDC, who were detained for several months in Conakry. These officials, Omar Silla alias Fonike Mengwe, Ibrahima Jallo, and Mamadou Bilouba, the striking lawyers, believe that the release of the activists by the Guinean Minister of Justice without any legal procedure is a sign of disrespect to the system. Tofik Abdul Nasser reports.
Until their release last Wednesday, the FNDC leaders were detained by the state for 9 months without trial. Umaru Sila, alias Foni Kemenge, Ibrahim Jallo, and Mamadou Biloba release followed days of mediation talks comprising religious leaders in Guinea. Nonetheless, addressing the media on Thursday, government spokesperson indicated that the officials will be tried, an explanation that still angered the judiciary workers, especially judges. Monday's action, local media say, paralyzed activities in the Court of Appeal, where the September 28 trial was scheduled to resume after lawyers failed to register their presence. The same silence was reported at the Economic and Financial Offences Repression Court in the capital. The political movement FNDC has led several protests against former President Alpha Conde's third-term candidacy and continued with similar action until he was ousted on September 5, 2021. This time, the group disagrees with the transitional government's timetable and denounces its abuse of power and suppression of rights, including to demonstrate as well as the arbitrary arrest of opposition politicians.
Tofik Abdul Nasser with that report. 7 people have been confirmed dead after an illegal mining pit in which they were caved in on them in Ghana's eastern region. It is unclear what caused the collapse of the pit, but some community members suggest the heavy rainfall recorded in most parts of the country on Monday is a contributing factor. Throughout the night, efforts were underway to rescue about 17 others who remained trapped under the rubble, with locals helping with rescue efforts using anything they could lay hands on. WADR Accra correspondent Tiawene Lawson completes the story.
The unfortunate incident occurred on Monday evening when an illegal mining pit caved in at Kolete in the Brim North District of the Eastern Region. Hours of heavy rains preceded the pit collapse, and residents say the rainwaters, in addition to the poorly structured pit, contributed to its collapse. Out of 9 persons who were rescued from the debris moments after the collapse, 7 have been confirmed dead, leaving 2 alive and hospitalized. 17 others remain trapped, and rescue efforts, which went on through the night, are being led by community members. While journalists who went to the scene were chased away and threatened by the residents and other illegal miners, WADR was able to find out some information from Akwesi Dramina, a news correspondent with Adom radio station.
When I got to the scene, I saw 7 of them lying down lifeless, covered only with bushes and leaves, and 2 injured miners beside them. It's been raining heavily in the area today, so it was a bit surprising to see these miners enter the pit today to mine. Some witnesses believe the rains weakened the pit and caved in on them as they went in. There were 26 miners who went inside, with 7 pulled out dead and 2 injured. The rest are in there. A woman whose husband is part of those trapped alerted us of what has happened. According to her husband only went to the site after the rains subsided around 3 p.m. and unfortunately he got caught up in this. The miners prevented the team of journalists from taking photographs of the incident and chased them away.
First responders and officials from relevant agencies in disaster management have arrived at the scene to take over the rescue efforts, as families of the 17 other trapped miners say time is of the essence. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Mbila Lawson in Accra.
Let's take you to the Ivorian commercial hub, Abidjan, where the 7th edition of the African Congress of Accountants, ACOA, is underway. The meeting is of accounting professionals opened on Monday, May 15th, and was chaired by Ivorian Prime Minister Jerome Patrick Archie and several members of his government. As Oge Oberika reports, around 2,000 participants from around 50 countries are attending the forum organized by the Order of Chartered Accountants of Côte d'Ivoire in collaboration with Pan-African Federation.
The forum is being held under the theme Structural Transformation and Growth of African Economies. In his opening remarks, the Ivorian Prime Minister Patrick Archer said the accounting profession is at the heart of the evolution affecting Africa and is considered a support function in the development of companies and economies. In the same vein, the Ivorian Minister of Economy and Finance, Adama Coulibaly, hailed the relevance of the theme of this Congress, stressing the contribution of chartered accountants to national development. The minister referenced several reforms undertaken by the Ivorian government that made it possible to strengthen governance and fight against poverty. For Cosmic Gundeta, the president of the Pan-African Federation of Accountants, creating lasting values for the benefit of Africans is the vision of the organization. The future of the informal sector and SMEs, including the access to resources and expertise, will be at the heart of discussions by the attending 56 accountancy organizations from 45 African countries. The convergence every 2 years by members of the Pan-African Federation of Accountants ends on May 18, 2023.
Ogi Obiarika filed that report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Senegal beefs up security in the capital Dakar and other regions ahead of Sonko's trial later today. Suspected terrorists killed 3 soldiers and injured a dozen more in an attack in Nigeria's northeast. A mine accident in Ghana killed 7 and entombed 17 others after heavy rains Monday evening. A human rights expert advocates strong trade and good governance as key drivers for African trade development. Still ahead, we have our newspaper review, guest interview, and some sports updates. Kindly stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
It's 17 minutes past 12 in our studios here. This is West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM. And we are covering live on WADR.org on Newslink. The implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, without infringing on people's rights dominated discussions on Tuesday, day 2 of the ongoing 2023 African Union Network of African National Human Rights Institutions Policy Dialogue. The dialogue brings together human rights actors and institutions across the continent and is being held at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and it also aims to influence the AfCFTA document to pay attention to the inclusion of human rights of the African population. In a submission, Roland Ebole, a human rights expert, opined that the combination of strong trade and good governance contributes greatly to inclusive growth and sustainable development, and therefore improves human rights.
So the impact of FCFTA on specific human rights basically will affect, among others, as in issues that we got from human rights groups and NHRIs, and this is transparency and accountability of agreements, access to health, access to education, food security, housing, free movement of persons, that's migration, environment, issues around gender, labor, and rights to self-determination. Guidance that we can start looking at in terms of monitoring how FCFTA is being implemented. And one of it is how does it enhance compliance of businesses. How are the states really making it known or public engagements in their FTAs and any other agreements that they have, so that at least the public knows what the state is engaging in and how it's going to affect them.
Roland Ebole is a human rights expert.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Darlington Pokpa in Morovia is on standby with our newspaper review.
We are here with another edition of Press Review on the West Africa Democracy Radio, and we have with us 4 newspapers from Liberia. They are the Front Page Africa newspaper, the News newspaper, the Heritage newspaper, and the New Democrat newspaper. We start with the Front Page Africa newspaper with the headline, "Reconciliation is not by force." We see the photograph of Charlene Bronskin. "We will continue to extend the hand of reconciliation, and those who want to come will come," she said. And we leave it right there. Still on the front page of the Front Page Africa newspaper, massacre trial ends in Liberia. That's Jibril massacre. From the Front Page Africa newspaper, the News newspaper is next. Strong and stable footing. We are brags about Liberia's economy. EPA boss named UN envoy on the back page of the News newspaper. Back on board, Yombly endorses Boakai. CPP will create a new feature, Cummins. That's the political leader of the collaborating political parties. Legislature resumes session today, and we'll leave it right there. Afrexim Bank Liberia trade showdown begins today. We see the photograph of this official on the back page of the News newspaper. Stay with the News newspaper. Government launches new radio program. The Heritage newspaper is next. Front page of the Heritage newspaper, we see the big picture of President George Weah inspecting several infrastructure projects on the front page of the Heritage newspaper. World Health Organization confident about Liberia's capacity to contain future COVID-19 threat. On the back page of the Heritage newspaper, at University of Liberia, who wins Fedewise Academic Excellence Journalism Award? The paper is asking a question here. EPA begins nationwide environmental compliance monitoring. NEC concludes biometric voter registration nationwide. And we leave it right there from the Heritage newspaper. The New Democrat newspaper is now our last stop. We will fight against powerful people, as Yombly declares as she joins Boakai. Mayor struggles with truth, accuracy, and accountability. On the back page of the New Democrat newspaper, Ghana deposed wanted Liberian for theft of unspecified amounts of money from the manual manufacturing company in Monrovia. Still on the back page of the New Democrat newspaper, Banjo medical team deceased patients. With that, we conclude today's edition of Press Review. Thank you so much for following, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Darlington Pokpa, for that press review.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
Our guest segment this afternoon is a follow-up to our report on the Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko and his legal battles. Sonko, in addition to his existing 6-month suspended prison sentence in a defamation case involving the tourism minister Mamin Banyang, is due to appear in court today regarding allegations of rape and death threats made against him by Ajisal, an employee at a beauty salon. The capital city of Dakar has been engulfed in political unrest, protests, and heightened tensions in recent months as the fate of Sonko and his political aspirations hang in the balance due to these multiple charges against him. As the Senegalese population eagerly awaits the outcome of this long-pursued case, our guest, Mamadou Cho, will provide insight on the implications of this development.
I mean, it's part of what he called his campaign for civil disobediences. I mean, he said that from now on, he won't be coping with the justice system because he considered that the justice system is unfair towards him. So he knows what can be the consequences, because this trial is not a civil trial, it's a criminal trial, which means if he can be tried without being there, will be very heavy, because a man who knows about how the justice system is working said that in case he's condemned, I mean, he will stay 20 years before seeing, I mean, this the verdict uplifted, which is quite very heavy as a consequence.
So, of course, already he's sentenced with 6 months suspension by the case with Mam Banyang, and now the long-awaited case of alleged rape and repeated death threats by Ajisa. Personally, and also on the political front, do you think it can break him as a person and also his camp?
Yeah, I mean, for the current trial, I mean, opposing him to this young lady, I mean, there's a lot of doubt surrounding even the whole process so far. Because when you listen to the doctor who received the young girl and the gendarme who received the young girl early in the when he filed, the complaints at the section de recherche. So, I mean, you have some doubt about if the case that's worth the candle. I mean, so far. But nobody knows what is in the whole file. Because I was listening Tuesday morning. One of the lawyer of the lady who ran the beauty salon, who is part of the trial, and one of the ladies is saying that the file is something like more than 400 pages with different documents. It means that at least there is many elements in the cases public that don't know. We have to wait until the trial is open to know about what is inside. I mean, a criminal court is not like the one opposing him with Mambaya. It can take time because there is many people who will be all over to come to the court in favor of Usman Sonko or in favor of the lady. So it means it can take time, and maybe the best thing the justice can do is to show that the process is very fair and not trying to rush, because a fair trial is a good trial indeed.
Mamadou Cho is a Senegalese political analyst. And here's Sankule Janko with some sports updates.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Man of the moment Victor Osimhen and two other Nigerians have been named in the provisional list of nominated players in the Team of the Year in the Italian Serie A. The highly rated nominees include the Super Eagles stars, namely Napoli's Victor Osimhen, Atalanta's Ademola Lookman, and Udinese's Destiny Udogie. The sought-after striker scored an impressive 23 goals for Napoli this season, cementing his place as one of the top strikers in the league. Also on the list is defender Destiny Udogie, who has been a regular for Udinese this season. The 20-year-old defender made 31 appearances in Serie A, scoring 3 goals and 4 assists along the way. Meanwhile, fellow Super Eagles forward Ademola Lookman's impressive performances in the first half of the season have earned him recognition in the nomination list. Lookman scored 13 goals with 4 assists in 28 games in his debut season for Atalanta. And in basketball, Al Ahly have been crowned champions of the Egyptian Basketball Super League for a second successive year after defeating Ittihad of Alexandria 72-70 in Game 4 according to media reports. The Red Devils quickly made their comeback, winning the third game 67-58 and the fourth 72-70 after a tightly contested final. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Thank you, Sankule Janko, for that sports update. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to our listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM, and in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lofa County, and in Ghana on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi. Inyas Belemu has been on the console. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek for our Facebook Live coverage. Do interact with us via social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. My name is James Adjapong. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music, get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio
94.9 FM Dakar.